My name is Claire Thompson, though most people in the neighborhood simply call me Auntie Claire. I've lived in this old house for more than 37 years, long enough to watch the street change, neighbors come and go, and time slowly peel the paint from every wooden beam. But for all these years, I never heard the house speak to me. Not until that night. The night the wall called my name. The house that always hid something. People say old houses creak. They breathe. They settle. Mine always did more than that, but I ignored it. Doors would open by themselves if left unlocked. The hallway floorboards groaned, even when no one walked across them, and the kitchen window sometimes fogged from the inside on warm days. I always said, it's nothing. Just age. Just weather. But deep down, I knew there was something different about this house. It belonged to my parents before me. And my mother, God rest her soul, never liked being alone in it. She used to whisper, "Walls remember more than people do, Claire. And sometimes, they talk." As a child, I thought she meant memories stick with us. As an adult, I wondered if she meant something literally. But I never asked. Maybe I was afraid of the answer. A quiet night, that should have been normal. It was a cold November evening. The kind where the wind slices through the trees and the whole world feels empty. I'd made myself chamomile tea and wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. My living room was dim, lit only by the warm glow of a small lamp near the bookshelf. I remember thinking the house felt too still, too silent, like it was holding its breath. Around 11:45 p.m., I stood to take my empty cup to the kitchen, and that's when I heard it. A soft, muffled sound behind the living room wall. At first, I thought it was the plumbing, or maybe a mouse stuck in the insulation. But then, I heard a voice, a child's voice, small, gentle, and impossibly close. "Auntie." I froze so hard my cup slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. My breath caught in my throat. No, I didn't hear that. I couldn't have. But then it came again, clearer this time, like someone pressing their lips right against the wall. "Auntie Claire, please help me." My entire body went cold. The wall wasn't supposed to have a voice. I stepped back, staring at the wall like it might open its eyes and look back at me. No, that's ridiculous," I whispered. But the house didn't care what I believed. A soft scratching began, gentle, like fingertips dragging from the inside. My heart hammered so loudly I almost didn't hear the next whisper. "Please, don't leave me here." I clutched the edge of the sofa to steady myself. My knees felt weak, my breath thin. What do you want?" I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. The scratching stopped. Then, slowly, deliberately. "You know me." Every hair on my arms stood straight. My stomach flipped. I don't know who you are," I whispered shakily. The voice returned, softer than before, like it was leaning its head against the wall. "Yes, you do. A memory I never talk about. There are very few things in my life I refuse to talk about. But the biggest one is what happened when I was 10 years old. Back then, my parents argued often. My father drank too much. My mother prayed too much. One summer afternoon, I was playing outside when a neighbor boy, only 8 years old, wandered into our backyard. His name was Evan. He was small, quiet, and always followed me everywhere like a shadow. We were near the old tool shed when the ground under his feet suddenly collapsed. No one knew the dirt there was rotten and hollow underneath. My father had dug something years ago and never filled it properly. Evan slipped. I grabbed his arm, but I wasn't strong enough. He fell into the pit, about 6 feet deep. He wasn't hurt badly, but he cried. He begged me to pull him out, but I didn't. Not immediately, because I was afraid. Afraid my parents would blame me. Afraid of being punished. So instead of running to get help, I knelt above the pit and whispered, "Don't cry. Stay quiet. I'll come back. I just need to think." But by the time I gathered courage to scream for help, it was too late. He had gone silent. The doctor said he died from shock and lack of oxygen. But I always believed he died because I hesitated, because I didn't help fast enough. My parents buried the truth. The neighbors were told he fell alone, and no one was there. But I knew, and so did the walls of this house, because the pit where Evan fell was right beneath it. The foundation was poured on top years later. His memory was literally buried inside these walls. The voice knows what I did. My hands were trembling uncontrollably as the voice whispered again, "You left me. Why did you leave?" "Oh God," I choked, covering my mouth. "Evan?" There was a long silence. Then, a fragile, shivering whisper came from the wall. "Don't let me die again." I stumbled backward, bumping into the coffee table. No, this isn't real, I told myself. I'm imagining this. It's guilt. Trauma. But guilt doesn't scratch inside walls. Trauma doesn't whisper your name. Memories don't ask for help 37 years later. Something was inside that wall. Or someone. The house begins to change. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the living room floor, facing the wall, afraid to turn my back on it. Around 3:12 a.m., the house gave a long, low creak. And then, another whisper. Not crying this time. Not begging. Just 3 words. Find me, Auntie. Something in my chest tightened until it hurt. Find him. Inside the walls? That was impossible. Wasn't it? But when the sun finally rose, I made a decision I knew could only end badly. I was going to open that wall. And God help me. I already knew what I was going to find. I didn't touch the wall until the morning light filled the living room. Some part of me wanted to believe the night had been a hallucination, a bad dream shaped by guilt and loneliness. But the moment the sun rose, the house felt different, heavy, alert, as if it were waiting for me. And a home should never feel like it's watching you. The marks that shouldn't be there. Before doing anything reckless, I pressed my ear to the wall again. Silence. No breath, no scratching, no whisper calling my name. For a moment, I felt foolish, embarrassed even. Maybe the grief from my past had finally cracked something inside me. But when I stepped back, my heart nearly stopped. Right at the base of the wall, near the wooden trim, were thin scratch marks. Not random lines. Not marks from furniture. 5 tiny parallel lines, like fingernails dragging desperately downward. My knees went weak. Evan? I whispered. The house didn't answer. But when I touched the scratches, a cold shiver ran through my hand, like the wood itself remembered pain. The first hit, I grabbed a hammer and chisel from the old toolbox in the basement. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped them. This is stupid, I muttered. This is insane. But even as I said it, I lifted the hammer. I pressed my palm against the wall one last time. And for the briefest second, I swear the wood felt warm. Like a pulse, I jerked back. Get it together, Claire, I whispered. It's just fear. Then I raised the hammer and struck. Crack. A chunk of drywall fell to the floor. And the smell that rushed out. Oh God. It was old dirt, wet earth. Like a grave right after rain. The hole in the wall. I cleared more of the drywall, my breath coming in short bursts. Behind the surface was something I didn't expect. Not pipes. Not insulation, not wiring, but old wood. Horizontal wooden planks, stained dark with age. A hidden wall inside a wall. That wasn't normal. Not part of the house's original structure. Someone had built this later. To hide something. My stomach twisted. Had my parents known? Had they sealed something inside here? I couldn't stop now. I wedged the chisel between the boards and pried. The first plank groaned like an animal in pain. Behind it, darkness. Cold, still. Suffocating darkness. I pointed my flashlight inside. The beam caught something. Fabric. Old, rotted, mold-stained fabric. But that wasn't what made my chest tighten. It was the shape beneath it. Small, curled, human. No, I whispered. No, please no. My hands started trembling violently. But before panic could swallow me, a whisper drifted out of the darkness. You came back, Auntie. I stumbled backward so hard I hit the bookshelf. The flashlight fell from my hand. The voice had come from inside the wall, from the dark, from the shape. Is it a ghost? Or something else? I scrambled for the flashlight and shined it back in. The shape didn't move. It was too still, too quiet. A body. But the voice. Where did it come from? Evan? I choked out. Silence. Only the faint drip of moisture somewhere deeper in the wall. I wanted to run. Every instinct screamed. Leave the house. Leave now. But something stronger held me there. A truth I had spent my whole life trying to bury. I wiped my tears and forced myself to keep looking. The tiny body, no bigger than that of an 8-year-old, was covered in dirt, hands curled near the face, clothes long decayed. It was him. It had to be him. But something wasn't right. I reached inside slowly, brushing away more dirt. And then, I saw it. Not one, not two, but 3 small finger marks carved into the wood beside the body. Deep. Desperate. He had tried to scratch his way out. My throat tightened so painfully I could barely breathe. Oh God, I'm so sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. That's when the whisper came again. Soft, trembling. Don't leave me again. I froze. The body hadn't moved. The hands were still curled. The mouth shut. But the voice was unmistakable. A child's. Evan's. I pressed my shaking hand to my chest. Where are you? I whispered. The voice answered from somewhere behind the body, deeper within the wall. Here, behind the dark. My skin crawled. There was more than just the body. Something deeper behind that space. Something that wanted me to find it. The second wall. With tears running down my face, I reached further into the cavity. My hand hit something solid. Another wooden barrier behind the corpse. A second hidden wall. I pushed the flashlight deeper. On that inner wall, written in something dark, too dark to be dirt, were shaky, childish letters. Don't tell Mom. My breath stopped. That wasn't written by an 8-year-old boy. That was written by someone older. Someone who knew my mother. My head spun. Why would my mother hide this? What did she know? And then the whisper came again. Closer this time, like lips brushing the back of my ear. Keep going, please. I jerked so violently I dropped the flashlight again. The beam landed perfectly inside the wall, illuminating something behind the corpse. A second shape, not a body. A small metal box, old, rusted, sealed shut, with childhood stickers on it. My childhood stickers. My hands went ice cold. What is that doing there? I whispered. The voice answered immediately. You put it there. My memories slammed into me like a tidal wave. Summer. Heat, sweat, dripping down my neck. Me, holding that same metal box. Me, crying, scared, shaking. Me whispering, I'm sorry, while pushing the box into the dirt. No, I never hid anything. I never. But the memory was too sharp, too vivid. I had buried something. And my parents sealed it inside the wall later. What did I hide? I whispered, barely breathing. Silence. Then the voice, trembling like it was afraid too. You hid me. The floor felt like it vanished under me. My vision blurred. My breath broke. I hid you? I whispered. The childlike voice answered softly. Find me, before he does. Who? I whispered. Before who finds you? A long silence. Then, with a voice that sounded nothing like a child anymore. Deeper, older, filled with dread. The man inside the house. I froze. I live alone, I whispered. A cold breath brushed my ear. No, you don't. Auntie didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that crack in the wall, glowing faintly, like a vein pulsing under skin. By sunrise, she was already dressed, standing in front of it again, holding a small hammer in her trembling hand. The house was silent. Too silent, she whispered. Are you still there? No response. But the feeling was there, the same cold pull on her chest, the same pressure behind her ears. Like the house was holding its breath. She lifted the hammer. One hit, thud, dust fell. A small piece of plaster chipped away. Second hit, thud. This time the crack widened. And then, a sound. Like someone breathing. Slow, shallow, uneven. Auntie staggered back, pressing a hand to her mouth. No, that isn't real. That can't be human. She forced herself forward and pressed her ear to the wall. This time she heard it clearly. Auntie, don't leave me again. It wasn't just a whisper. It was a child's whisper. Auntie's heart froze. She stepped back, shaking her head. That's not possible. No one is inside the wall. No one. But she knew the truth. She had heard that voice once before. 36 years ago. Her little sister, Aaliyah. The one who had gone missing when Auntie was barely a teenager. The one everyone said had wandered outside and never been found. But that wasn't the whole truth, was it? Because suddenly, memories she had buried for decades pushed their way to the surface. Aaliyah crying. Aaliyah begging not to be left alone. Aaliyah hiding from someone. Auntie grabbed the hammer again. She didn't care what came out. She didn't care if she was losing her mind. She was going to open the wall. She struck again, and again. The plaster cracked, splintered, and finally broke open, revealing a dark, hollow space behind it. Cold air rushed out, air that smelled old, sealed, untouched. She leaned in. There was something inside. A small, wooden box, wrapped in decayed cloth. Her hands shook violently as she pulled it out. She set it on the floor, staring at it like it might breathe, or scream. The voice whispered again, softer now. Open it. Auntie's throat dried. Who are you? She whispered. No answer. Instead, something else happened. A shadow passed behind her. Slow, steady, human-shaped. She spun around. Nothing. The house was empty, but she was no longer alone. She knew that now. Her hand hovered over the box. She lifted the lid and froze. Inside were a small silver bracelet, a broken hair clip, a faded photograph, and a note written in a trembling child's handwriting. Her name. Just her name. Syra. Her knees weakened. Tears blurred her vision. Syra, please don't be scared. The voice was right behind her. She turned around slowly and saw the figure. A small silhouette. A child, standing in the dim hallway, watching her, waiting. But the face wasn't fully formed, like a memory that still hadn't decided what it wanted to be. Auntie whispered, barely breathing. Aaliyah? The shadow tilted its head and smiled, but not a child's smile. No, something else was using that shape. Something ancient, something hungry. Auntie's entire body went numb as the small shadow stepped closer. It looked like Aaliyah, the height, the thin arms, even the slight limp. But the face was wrong. Too smooth, too shifting, too unfinished. Like clay trying to remember what a human looks like. Auntie whispered, how do you know her name? How do you know me? The shadow child tilted its head, vertebrae cracking softly. I know everything you forget. Auntie's breath caught. The hallway light flickered. The walls expanded and contracted like lungs. The shadow stepped closer. I was here before you. Step. I was here before she disappeared. Step. And when she cried, the shadow leaned in. You didn't hear her. Auntie stumbled backward. I loved my sister. I would never. The shadow's voice rose, suddenly layered. A child's whisper mixed with something deeper, older, inhuman. You left her behind this wall. Auntie froze. Her heartbeat stopped. She remembered. The house was under renovation. The wall was half plastered. Aaliyah was hiding during a game of Don't Let the Monster Find You. Auntie had been the monster. Aaliyah had crawled into the hollow wall space to hide. Auntie had laughed and said, I won't find you there. Then someone called her from outside. She forgot to tell anyone. Workers sealed the wall that evening. Aaliyah never came out. Auntie dropped to her knees, hands shaking so violently she nearly collapsed. No, I didn't. I didn't know. The shadow knelt with her. Its small hand lifted her chin. Cold, sharp, wrong. You forgot her. Auntie sobbed uncontrollably. Where is she? What happened to her? Tell me. The creature leaned its shifting face close to hers. She was mine before the wall closed. Auntie's heart hammered. You're not Aaliyah. The creature smiled. Aaliyah fed me. And now that you remember, you can feed me too. The hallway darkened entirely. The house groaned. The creature expanded, its shadow stretching, filling the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Like it was the house. Like it had been living inside the walls long before humans ever walked in. Auntie tried to run, but the floor softened like breathing skin. The voice whispered from all around her, live in the walls with me, just like she did. Auntie screamed, a raw, tearing sound, as the floor split open beneath her and cold hands dragged her downward into the hollow darkness inside the house. Her voice echoed once. Then silence. The walls settled. The house became still once more. Hours later, the crack Auntie had opened slowly filled itself in, like flesh healing. By nightfall, the wall looked perfect again. Except for one thing. If someone pressed their ear to it, they would hear a faint voice from deep, deep inside. Auntie, please help me. But now, it wasn't a child's voice. It was hers.